Welcome, everyone, to our third annual Royal. I am your co host, Janet Namaste, and welcome. Today, we are actually speaking with a group of women all over the world that have been game changers in the field of fashion and bringing the awareness of sustainability and making a positive and incredible impact in this world. So, right now, we have the honor of Thania Peck. I'm just going to let's get you in. Thania Peck, one moment. From Catcher in the Style, not Catcher in the Rye, Catcher in the Style. So I have the great honor of having and sharing space with her today. Here we go.
Retrograde. So we're having a little bit of technical issues, but hello, darling Thania. So nice for you to be here with us today.
Thank you so much for inviting me.
Yeah, I'm so excited to be in this space with you right now. We're so blessed to have you and for you to share your story and your mission and the impact that you are bringing to the world with being a conscious fashion revolutionary. So if you could just please introduce yourself and the work that you are doing in the world.
Yeah, sure. Hi, everyone. My name is Thania Peck. I am a fashion blogger and activist for sustainability in fashion and transparency for consumers, and I'm a UN consultant.
Beautiful, beautiful.
And a sustainability advisor.
Yes,
Yeah.
we can't forget that.
Yeah.
So you have a very colorful and diverse background, from model to content creator. And you really, it wasn't like you were always involved in shining a spotlight on sustainability. So what happened in your life when things changed for you and you wanted to be an advocate for sustainability?
I think to talk about the present and the future, I need to recognize my past. So my grandparents were garment workers in South Africa. I'm South African. And so with that said, my background is, I never got to meet them because they were facing disparities and they didn't live long enough for us to even, get to have a conversation about fashion or anything like that. So moving forward, I try to champion, the people that are in the garment sector and raise awareness to kind of have future families not face the same disparities that our family faced.
Absolutely. So you've heard the stories like being passed down from generations to generations, and your parents telling you about the struggles that their parents probably faced as well, right?
Yeah, that's correct. And so I've been working with the UN for 6 years, and so I'm on the UN Women He for She team. So we champion the gender equality conversation. And so pretty much my entire career has been focused on women and human rights. So it's just kind of, I work on policy. So there's a holistic approach to kind of like sustainability, so being a fashion blogger, I'm in the room with fashion brands and beauty brands, and I can kind of ask them really hard questions, not putting them in a position to, have adverse reaction, but I'm just like, what do you need? What do you need from me to help you move that, shift that paradigm in the right direction?
How do you educate these companies that some either they, and I don't want to say it's the ignorance, but how do you actually bring the awareness and the education to those companies?
Well, I just ask them what they need, right? So what does their supply chain look like? Do they know what's happening in their tier 3? Just to put it in context, earlier this year, I went to a conference for the Sustainability Act, which is an ESG bill for suppliers that gross $100 million globally. And so that bill hasn't passed, and it needs to be updated, but it's still sitting in the New York State legislators. But as I was in that conference, there was a woman that came to me and told me that garment workers in New York City are making $5 a day. And I asked her,
wow,
what? I was like, there's a union, there's all these things, but I was like, explain to me what's happening in this supply chain. She said that the companies are hiring garment workers, and it's just contracted in the tier 3 supply chain so far deep that women are just sewing things in their homes, you know, kids running around, all this stuff. So I told one of the NGOs, Remake, that I work with very closely, and they got Senator Gillibrand to write the Fabric Act, which is a bill that that I'm advocating for, and a lot of my peers are advocating for as well. So the Fabric Act essentially will bring manufacturing back into the U.S., and it incentivizes brands to do manufacturing in the U.S. And it has a stipulation that garment workers will make minimum wage, so that we don't have these disparities happening. So the garment workers get taken care of.
It's unbelievable in this day and age. Like, this is, you're talking about present day, right? 2022.
Yeah, I'm talking about just a few months ago that I had this conversation. So, yeah.
Oh my God, it's very sad. You know,
but
very sad.
With the Fabric Act, I mean, it's uplifting because there's a lot of movement in fashion and sustainability. So, you know, although there are, you know, these disparities that people are facing, and the majority of garment workers it's 80% women. They're facing these disparities globally. We can look at legislation and kind of like put those things into movement, and, you know, contact our Congress people and tell them that we want them to sign on to the Fabric Act. So some, you know, constituents of different Congress or senators can let their you know, elected officials know that that's important to them, and they want them to co-sign that bill.
That's incredible. What about, but I'm sure it's even children too, right? Wouldn't it be all like, it's, you were saying that the majority are women, but are there children also that are working?
Globally, there are different laws. Like in Indonesia, a child can be 14 and 13 and legally 15 to work in the garment sector. So there's a lot of different kind of, you know, laws globally. But I mean, I wouldn't want to, a child should be in school. A child should be getting educated. A child shouldn't be working in the garment sector for, you know, people to create clothing and capitalism to exist. Kind of, it's just, you know, it's mind blowing to,
it's convoluted,
to have this conversation about children working.
Absolutely. Absolutely. So what brands in like men's and women's apparel are leading the way when it comes to sustainability?
So when we speak about, you know, brands producing clothing, right, we have to think about the environmental impact and the human capital, natural capital that takes a hold of that conversation. So are there brands doing better? Yes, smaller brands are doing better, but if you look at the big picture, if you're creating from raw materials, it's still not necessarily sustainable, right? Because what happens in that, you know, if you want to like envision a circular model, if you take that item, what's the end of its life, right? Can that item be put back into circulation somehow? And oftentimes that's not the case. You know, they end up in Ghana, or they end up in Chile in the deserts. I have some videos on my Instagram that show some of those things. So we have to kind of look at that, right? We have to kind of look at that and see, like, what are we doing here? I have a land stewardship with Christy Dawn, and so they regenerate a land in India, and so the workers are taken care of, and the you know, the water waste, everything is looked at in a holistic approach, right? From the seed to the farm to your closet. They know their supply chain, and so that's why I work with them. Another person to watch out for is Zero Waste Daniel. He takes fashion scraps and creates beautiful garments. And I actually have a dress that I continue to wear to all my events because he made it for me, and it's beautiful. And we need to wear what's in our closet and style it differently. You know, like my handle's catcher in the style. You know, not catcher in the fashion, for a reason. When I was growing up, I didn't have a lot of money to, you know, we immigrated from South Africa during the apartheid. So my family didn't have a lot of money. You know, we shopped secondhand. It wasn't a popular thing, but that's what we could do. So I always shopped secondhand. It was always my thing. Yeah. And so when I became a fashion blogger, I would just pair things differently. I would see what Gucci's doing and Prada's doing, but I was like, I think I could do this with the stuff in my closet, you know, and I still continue to perpetuate that notion. So, you know, wear what's in your closet. Don't feel like you need to, I guess it's like, you know, behavioral science, right? We've been programmed to need to go shopping for a new look, but why are we doing that? We have to ask ourselves. It's actually a psychological issue, right?
Correct.
It's not just necessarily like something that we were innately born with. It's something that was programmed. So
exactly. It's like a false sense of security or a false sense of elevating the consciousness. You get this next new shiny thing, and that high of getting that next new shiny thing, it completely dissipates as soon as it gets into your closet.
Yeah, exactly.
It isn't lasting.
And I think, you know, consumers need to read labels, and, you know, we all as an industry, as individuals, as consumers, we need to move away from fossil fuels, right? Like this recycled, you know, polyester, this stuff is not good for our bodies. We have our skin is the largest organ in our body, and we're putting these things like toxic dyes, like exactly. That's why secondhand is like less impactful on your body, you know. There's a lot of endocrine disruptors and all these things that we're putting on our body, and we're wondering why people are getting cancer in such like crazy rates. So yeah, and that goes for beauty industry too. You know, there's also laws in that sector to reduce the amount of toxins in the beauty products, and you know, I could go on, but
please go on, because please go on, because this is I mean, you're involved in increasing sustainability in both apparel and cosmetics. So how are these two areas though different when it comes down to making sustainability progress, like improvements, like the apparel industry and the cosmetic industry?
Yeah, thank you for that question. So this year, we introduced the UN Conscious Fashion Lifestyle Network, where you guys can all go and you can, you know, if you have solutions, you can document your solution on there. But so Carrie Bannigan, she's amazing. She was like the thought leader of this whole project. And so what it is, it's so that member states can see, you know, who in their country is doing creating solutions that are better, and how can we kind of like have those solutions be scaled up. I think that the notion of scaling up consumerism is, you know, we should be focusing on scaling up solutions. And also this on Friday there was the Conscious Fashion Lifestyle campaign launched in Times Square. And so that's a bunch of amazing women-led organizations that have solutions. So they're up in Times Square. If you see them around, you know, snap a photo and, you know, tag Fashion Impact Fund. We'd love to see it.
That's amazing. So what advice would you give to the average consumer who wants to make their wardrobe and their cosmetics more sustainable? Because cosmetics also, you know, there is a certain expiration date with certain, you know, with cosmetics. So how can you make that more sustainable?
Oh my gosh. So the thing with cosmetics is like, as soon as, I mean, and this is in department store level, it's just like, it's so unnerving. So there's so many products being created, and these products, like you said, have an expiration date, and they all get thrown out, right? The brands aren't taking the products back and putting new products in it. It's just getting thrown out. So that's more stuff going to landfill, right? But in order to have solutions, we have to have these conversations. You know, we have to raise flags, and, you know, I wish there was like a resolution I could introduce to, you know, combat all these things. But like,
you're doing it. One resolution at a time. You're doing it.
Yeah, but you know, it's the things that consumers can do is definitely advocate brands to not greenwash. You know, if they see that happening, tell them, hey, you know, whatever brand it is, like, this isn't what I want to see, right? Because people think that CEOs run everything, but it's actually consumers, because the consumers at the end of the day, they're shopping with their dollars, and we can choose to not support something. And when we do it together, it moves mountains, right? So there's a couple of things that you could do. You could sign up for Remake. That's I'm one of the ambassadors for Remake World. We work on policy, and we also do a lot of other campaigns. Like we're working on this campaign right now to have Levi's sign the Accord for Garment Workers' Rights.
Mm-hmm.
So that's just to keep for garment workers safe, the Bangladesh Accord.
Right.
So they don't want to sign it because who knows what they're doing in their supply chain, you know? So yeah, you can sign up for Remake. Another thing you could do is, you know, use what's in your closet and shop, like do clothing swaps with your friends, and just, you know, check labels.
I do clothing swaps with my 18-year-old daughter.
Yeah.
No,
Also,
yeah.
follow Fashion Impact Fund, because then you can see all the
Yes.
things that we're working on. We just funded some women in South Africa. They were from marginalized community, and now they got the skills to actually cut and sew. And so potentially can, you know, when you have the tools to create something, you can use that to, you know, create your own brand if you want, right? Essentially. But you got to start somewhere.
You have to start somewhere. It's so true, because we live in a day and age where it's like instant gratification. And also with like the younger influencers, they feel that sometimes, well, I can't wear the same thing that I wore on this live. I have to go and get something else. So
Yeah.
I appear different, when in reality they don't realize that they're making a negative impact in the world. So what my next question that I want to segue into is like that many stores, many brands, they speak about introducing more sustainable practices and products, but at the same time, there's an increase of cost in adopting, you know, like whatever's in the supply chain. Like, do you see that the end consumer, the one that's in the store, like, are they going to be willing to pay a premium for a more sustainable product?
That's the thing, right? So there's no actual laws against greenwashing. So we won't
No.
necessarily know if that brand supply chain is transparent. And that's the thing with brands, they need to be more transparent. We need traceability. And it goes through not even just the garment workers, but materiality, right? We want to know what this material is made out of. And so
Right.
sometimes you can say like a vegan leather, right? Like you think, oh, that's a better product, but then sometimes vegan leather is made from fossil fuels, and then there's other disparities with that type of stuff. So it's like, you know, so on a brand side, brands need to tell us what they're actually doing and not just try to put off these, like, you know, campaigns to make money, right? They have to think about people on the planet first over profits. And I think that that's all the, you know, like, okay, so when you think about Sears and you think about all these old school suppliers that we were, you know, that were in business before, right? They all went under. And I feel like fast fashion, that's going to happen as well. If these brands don't pivot, the same thing that's going to happen that happened to those other older stores that didn't pivot when they saw that consumers wanted something different, and the consumers cared about people and the planet, and they want to see people do better. I mean, we can't go at the same rate that we're going with climate change, with all these things that are happening in the world. Like, we need a better solution. And if it's a design structure matrix that these brands need to create to see what's lacking in their supply chain, then that's what they need to do. But they really need to do the work and not just expect that consumers are gonna just believe everything that they're throwing out there, right? We talk to each other.
Right, there's communication, but you know, how does like the transparency of what happens behind the scenes, how is that exposed?
Well, it's exposed through human rights, you know,
Human rights,
disparities that we see. Like, the great part about the internet, I mean, like, there's so many videos on TikTok when Shein had the lead in the clothing and the jackets or whatever, you know, even in the nail polish that they had. It's like, why are you trying to poison your consumers? Why don't you do your due diligence and make sure that these products are safe for market, instead of just pushing things out just because, you know, some celebrity Doja Cat had some nails that were, you know, popping or whatever, you know? So it's that type of thing that I'm just kind of like, oh, wow, this is crazy.
Greed. It's greed.
Yeah. and they don't care. Like, why do we
No,
care about buying those brands if they don't care about us? You know,
exactly.
let's be smart about what we're doing.
But I think it's important also what you're doing is educating the youth as well. And if you could speak more into that about, you know, the different programs that you do have that are really for the younger generations, because I think if we start with that also, that's planting the seed for later on that of them taking action later on when they become older and they're able to have those responsibilities. What kind of programs do you have for the younger generations?
I mean, the younger generation can join Remake also. I mean, we just have calls every month, like talking about policy. I mean, it doesn't have an age limit, you know,
No.
to push, you know, education in these platforms and things like that. But yeah, I mean, I post some things. I've been really busy with some UN stuff that we're working on coming up for the General Assembly. But yeah, I like to educate audiences as well. I'm a mentor. I also individually mentor for some, you know, students at, you know, universities and stuff like that. I was one of the advisors for the Columbia Masters in Sustainability program, and so I'm full on for education. And you know, if somebody reaches out to me and they want to know about you know, sustainability or like being a sustainability advisor, I know like one of my close friends and I, we did some lectures at FIT last semester, and one of the students emailed me and she was like, hey, I just want you to know that you changed my whole entire life listening to like your work that you do, and I actually want to get into this field of work. And I'm like, oh my gosh, I actually cried because it was so impactful, because the more people get that realness and that kind of like landscape of like, hey, if we work together and we do this kind of work, like the sustainability, you know, aspect of things will be bigger in fashion, and it won't be like, you know, this like, oh, let's make a brand, scale it up, sell all these things, put it into, you know, like the landfill. Like, it'll be more of a like, hey, let's slow things down, let's think about what we're doing, you know, how are we impacting the world in a positive way. Like the idea of the buy one give one, like I love that, you know, like I love when brands come up with thoughtful messaging, right?
Mm-hmm.
And but yeah, so I mean, education is really important for everyone. I was at the UN on Friday, and it was the media summit, the Sustainability Goals Media Summit. I have my pin on. But so there was a couple of students in the STEM program, and they were 14. One of them had created an AI system that works on satellites, and it just like looks at the land that's like mostly impacted by climate that could potentially have fire damage, right, in the future. And so this student that was 14 was telling us about this AI system that she created, and she has 2 patents and a trademark and all these things. And I'm like, you're 14. I didn't even check my email today. You know, like, I'm just like, so with that said, you know, there was another kid from the Bronx that created a climate solution, and both of them were really like, you know, 14, 15, really interested in climate solutions because it's their future, and like also our future, that all the choices that we're making right now are directly affecting our future, right?
100%.
So this kid from the Bronx, he created a drone that actually measures the carbon in the atmosphere. So he wanted to take that to lawmakers and let them know, like, hey, we don't want these, you know, highways or whatever close to the Bronx because they directly affect our, you know, our livelihood and our, like, the air we breathe and everything. So it was just interesting to see them, and they were so confident. And I'm like, I don't think I wasn't like doing much at 14.
These are old souls. I have a 14-year-old. I don't think he's I mean, he's thinking about football practice, but he does care about the environment, of course.
Yeah.
But he's definitely not inventing drones. to see where there's fertile soil. And that's actually like going back to these these amazing youth and these beautiful souls that are being born now, and these are the children that inspire, that should be inspiring others. You bring them along, you know, to other events, and share their story. These are our future influencers, because it all goes like, you know, speaking about a supply chain, you know, the rate of cancers, especially where I live, by the way.
Where are you located?
I live in New York, but I live in Staten Island. We have the largest landfill in the world.
Oh,
Do you
wow.
know, from outer space, from the galaxy, they can see, like, it's like they see the Great Wall of China and they see the Staten Island landfill. I mean,
Wow.
I live 20 minutes away from downtown Manhattan, but I remember years ago when we moved here, there was just a lot of land. It was a lot of farmland.
Yeah.
And in the 1980s, when they, I guess, opened up this landfill, there were people that were, I remember my dad, you know, we're immigrants as well. I'm first generation American, but he's like, you know, you children don't understand that if they start, you know, putting all of the landfill here from all of the 5 boroughs, from everywhere, there's a large cancer, you know, population here. There's, I think it's non-Hodgkin's lymphoma, and it's people need to wake up that we have to be part of the solution. And I remember being, I don't know how old I was, maybe 6 or 7 years old, and we were walking around with signs like "Don't dump on us." I remember, like, all over. But this is it affects each and every one of us. It's not just about, you know, being an influencer and looking glamorous and sharing a product for profitability. It's about really creating change, and that's what you do, you know, Thania. Like, it's really, it's beautiful. We so appreciate your gifts and the magic that you share with the world, and the knowledge. And I just want to ask also, because I know that we're coming to an end, but I do want to I really want to touch base of what your vision is of what the circular fashion industry, what it actually would look like to you in the next, like, upcoming 3 to 5 years, because change is happening very quickly. But so what is it, you know, what do you see, what do you envision in the next 3 to 5 years?
Well, I think circularity is an amazing idea, right? Like, thinking of the end life of the product in mind at the beginning, right? So I envision circularity sort of being more on the landscape of brands creating the products that could, maybe they're compostable. You know, maybe after a while you can compost it and put it back into the earth. You know, like, I think that we need to use less toxins, and I'm not sure what that looks like, but if we get these STEM students in these programs, maybe they can help come up with the solution.
Absolutely.
But
they are the solution, right?
Yeah, I mean, but we all should be the solution, right? Like, consumers should be activists, all of them, all of us. But yeah, you know, like, I think about a lot of you know, Cancer Alley in Louisiana. You know, like, these people, they just are living in a just crap air, you know, all this toxins and all this kind of stuff. And I think about that, I'm like, we need to move away from plastics. We need to move away from fossil fuels. Companies need to look at their supply chain and their factories, use renewable resources, stop using coal, you know, get solar, you know, I don't know, whatever solutions they can come up with at the factory levels, right? Take care of the farmers, take care of how much the water that they're using. So there was I think it's called Recover, just got scaled up by a bank, and it's like a company that takes old textile waste and they can mill it down and create new textiles from the machine, right? So I want to see more of those solutions, and that would actually, you know, like, instead of utilizing so heavily on the farms and that type of natural resources, I want to see, like, recycling old textiles, right? And then companies producing textiles that don't have such a like a heavy concentrate of toxins, so that because the problem is right now is why so many things get donated is because the textiles are so toxic, right? So brands are or the fabrics are mixed, like you can't have like a cotton with a synthetic, and like, you know, like they'd have to melt it down in order to like get the synthetics out of it and then utilize the cotton or whatever, something like that, you know. So it's just like a harder process, like make mono materials, right? So that you don't have to, so you don't have to have like a you don't have to think about how to recycle. We should be able to recycle these things on the curbside, you know. There should be programs for companies to incentivize, you know, their local recycling facilities to withstand the amount of plastics, because right now companies are just producing so much plastics, and then there's no way to actually facilitate the recycling. You know, it's just it's take, make, waste economy is just not working for me. Or anyone for that matter, you know.
No one benefits from that.
But that you know, I know we have we're going over time, but if all of you listening can just do one thing, it would be contact your legislators, let them know that you don't want, you know, all these companies to be creating all this waste, and tell them that you want good ESG bills on a local level that will hold companies accountable for the amount of production of plastics and packaging that they're, you know, that they have. We have something called the Break Free from Plastics Act that's just sitting there, and it's a great legislative bill. But also individual states have and local governments have a similar type of bill, like to you know, reduce waste and have brands pay for like the waste that they're producing. So things like little things like that make a huge difference, because then once we pass these things like local, state, federal, then we can take it on a larger scale for global policies and resolutions.
Absolutely. It's, you know, small changes, even just first few steps, they make big strides. They truly do. So as we're coming to the end of our conversation, this was incredible. We'd love to have you back on, by the way. This is such an honor to connect with you. So tell us what makes you raw, what makes you real, and what makes you talk.
I mean, conversations like this, like hanging out with you guys and just like getting to share this knowledge, you know, that I'm working so hard on, it really gets me excited, and I feel optimistic for the future. But yeah, so I'll continue to do the work, and thank you so much for giving the platform to like educate people on it.
Thank you. Thank you for aligning your passion and purpose and inspiring us all. It's been an honor. Thank you so much, Thania. All the best to you.